This episode is brought to you by Schiit Audio, manufacturers of sanely priced DACs, amplifiers, preamplifiers, and EQ devices. Click the link in the show notes for more information.
Alrighty, this tea is making my glasses steam up. Today, I want to do something a little bit different actually. I want to talk about some of the music that I've bought recently. Because I think it's kind of fairly easy to say you're into this or into that. But when you're actually putting your money where your mouth is, I think that really reaffirms the kind of music that you're into. So I want to talk through a whole bunch of CDs and vinyls that I've bought recently. We'll start with CDs and maybe we'll kind of go CD, vinyl. So yeah, and I'll start with, well, the things that are nearest really. These are 3 out of print ambient techno albums from the 90s. That includes stuff like CJ Bolland, Underground Resistance. And then on this one, we've got Reload, to Global Communication, Aphex Twin. On this one, we have Dave Angel. But yeah, these are quite hard to find. They're not on streaming services, not at all. I had to buy these from Discogs. The 4th one was the most expensive, 23 euros. That's on its way here right now. But these were, yeah, I guess they're on the new Electronica label. You can see the new, if I can, just there, if I pull my hand away. Very good sort of home listening electronic music for people who are really, really into that kind of thing. It's not really for newcomers. It might be a bit too alienating, I think. All right, let's pick a vinyl. And on the top of my pile here is something I just picked up this morning, actually. I went out to my local, well, it's a bookstore and it's a CD store and it's a vinyl store, record store. And I've been eyeing this for a long time and I just thought it was too expensive. It was 160 euros. It's this, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, B-Sides and Rarities, volumes 1 and 2. Because this did come out as a 3 CD set, or rather the first half of this came out as a 3 CD set in 2005, which was all of sort of B-sides and odd tracks that appeared on compilations, including the Until the End of the World soundtrack, and right up until, I think, Abattoir Blues and the Lyre of Orpheus, which for me is where Nick Cave started to sort of, well, I won't say tip off because he came back, but I wasn't really in love with those 2 records. I didn't buy this for the 2nd volume, I bought this for the 1st volume because it includes a track called The Ballad of Robert Moore and Betty Coltrane, which is one of the best Nick Cave tracks ever. And what else is on here? There's a couple of acoustic versions, a cover of Neil Young's Helpless, a wonderful song called Cassiel's Song, which I think has a connection to Wings of Desire, which therefore has a connection to Until the End of the World because it's Wim Wenders. But I've not heard a lot of the B-sides on volume 2 here because I didn't really pay much attention. All right, let's pick a CD. Pink Floyd's Animals, 2018 remix. I did buy this on vinyl initially and I thought the pressing was shit, so I just sent it back, bought the CD instead. And I guess the nature of this sort of remix, remaster is more lively and a bit, I guess, a bit brighter. And I think it suits the CD better than it does vinyl. But anybody complaining now that the original version of Animals sounds murky and dark, I think he's missing the point a little bit because the 70s, the late 70s in the UK were murky and dark. I'll do another CD because I bought this last week from Saturn, which is a big electronics store or consumer electronics store. But they have a really good vinyl section and a really good CD section. I bought the Neu box set because this is the entire Neu catalogue, with I think a tribute album, I think some remixes and things like that, which is actually why I really bought this because I don't love Neu 2. I don't know what this one's called, Neu 3 maybe. Neu 1 is fantastic, but it's not really electronic music. This is more sort of psychedelic rock, but done in a very sort of mechanical rock groove. This is from the mid-70s, or most of this stuff was recorded in the mid-70s, when basically musicians in Germany were trying to get away from anything that had connotations to Nazism and the Second World War. And that included classical music, which is why really a lot of electronic music came out of this country in the post-war period. And I learned this from a fantastic BBC podcast that I heard a few years ago, just after I moved here, which I thought was fascinating. Anyway, let's put that one down. let's pick up a vinyl. Next one, Soul Mining, the first proper The album. This is a reissue from this year, although it is the 2012 remaster that came out in a box set with a couple of other 12 inches. Whenever I talk to camera, there's always a courier, excuse me. All right, where was I? Okay, yeah, The Soul Mining 2012 box set, bonus 12 inches. This is the same remaster from that box set, just reissued as a single LP in, well, 2022, so 10 years later. Let's pick a CD. I buy everything by these guys. The Future Sounds of London. This is called A Space of Partial Illumination, and I think it's part 2, and they're usually pretty limited, so I just snap them up as soon as they become available. I think these are really interesting. It's just good head music. It's good to work to or to concentrate on something else when you're listening to this, or you can just space out to it. It's fantastic behind a pair of headphones, really. Another CD, which I haven't opened yet, but this is Blur's Bustin and Dronin, and it's a remix album that I think covers, it looks like, yeah, most of, if not entirely, their eponymous album from 96 or 97, the one with Song 2 on. And because Song 2 became so ubiquitous, I can't even listen to that album anymore. Even though, apart from Song 2, it is Blur's best album by far. And this is a bunch of remixes from that. It came out originally with a live CD as a second disc. Years ago, I think I bought it then, like maybe it was Japan only, maybe in the 90s. But I've long since gotten rid of that. This has been reissued again this year, I think on Record Store Day initially. There is a vinyl of this, but I just thought I'd get the CD. I don't want to be spending 35 bucks on a bunch of Blur remixes. But I love Blur, so I thought I'd buy that. It's really cool. I bought Way Down in the Rust Bucket by Neil Young and Crazy Horse. And again, I bought this because I got it from Dussmann up the road. But this is a 4 LP set. This is a live club show that Neil Young and Crazy Horse did in, I think, 91 or 1990, just before they toured the shit out of The Excellent Ragged Glory. I guess the touring the shit out of The Excellent Ragged Glory is what became Weld, which is Neil Young Crazy Horse's best live album. This isn't far behind. And I like this. I guess it has that more sort of intimate vibe. It's a bit looser. And it's not quite so earnest or serious, I don't think. It doesn't roar like Weld does. Let's go to a CD. A while back, I recommended Balance 10, mixed by Jimmy Van M, which is a 3 CD set of a whole range of different styles of music. And then a few years after that, Balance issued a double CD DJ mix set by Joris Voorn. This is completely different. This is more sort of straight ahead electronic house / techno. But there's 2 discs here, and each disc features 51 tracks. And this mix, or these 2 different mixes, I guess you call them, because one's called the Mitsuhiro mix, I guess it's Japanese, and then Midori mix on CD2. Joris Voorn made this in Ableton Live. So he stitched together bits of tracks here and there, and maybe, I guess, more substantial pieces of other tracks to create this continuous mix. And I guess to me, it reminds me of Richie Hawtin's DE9 transitions, where little bits of things are spliced in, and then they only appear for like 20 seconds and they're gone. So yeah, I find this a very sort of cerebral album to listen to. This doesn't hit me in the heart, this hits me in the head. And I love this behind headphones as well. Fantastic if you like dance music or electronic music. If you don't, you're probably going to hate it. So yeah, no apologies for that. Okay, electronic music on vinyl. An EP by Artefakt called Brain Dripper. This is one of those artists whose releases only come out on vinyl or digital download or streaming. So if I want to buy a physical copy, there is no CD, so I always buy the vinyl. I think it's quite expensive. I think I bought this from Bandcamp, 20 euros, but it's an EP. I want to support the artist because they're a small artist. I'm sure they're not making very much money at all. This is a bit like that Joris Voorn mix. I mean, this is not a DJ mix, this is original music, but it's very cerebral. I guess you'd call it ambient techno or IDM. I think that's what ambient techno became. But really, I think now people just call it electronica. So just, I guess, home-based, or yeah, electronic music designed for home listening, less so the club. This isn't really club music. And I'll go to the next vinyl because that sort of continues that theme of electronic music made for listening to at home, but also some of it might work in the club. The new Daniel Avery album, Ultra Truth. I really like what Daniel Avery does. Not everything. I think the last album I didn't really love was that called Together in Static. Didn't love that. This one is fantastic. It's a double white vinyl, but it has some guest vocals. And if you actually look at the track list and see it with like featuring, to me that's always like a bit of a warning that I might not like it, because I hate it when electronic artists, they have some success with predominantly instrumental work, and then for another album they'll go, I know, let's get a bunch of guest vocalists. Can't stand it. But Daniel Avery has done this very well because he's only sort of peppered the vocals in. They're only like just slices or snippets here and there. They're not proper songs. Some of this really hits hard. Some of it is very floaty, and even includes that tribute track he did to Andy Weatherall called Lone Swordsman. That's on here. Haven't even opened this yet, had not had time. Anyway, deep chords, hash bar loops. In the loosest sense, this is called dub techno. But I wouldn't take the techno part of it too much to heart, because it's more of a pulse than it is a wallop. I mean, there's a 4/4 beat that runs through this, but there's lots of very, I guess you'd call them synth washes, but it does feel very claustrophobic or smoky. I know it's called hash bar, so probably that's why I'm picking up that. But dub techno has these kind of big sounds, and it's definitely designed for home listening as far as I'm concerned. Again, great behind a pair of headphones. Also great, yeah, with loudspeakers. And I think this is a good sort of newcomer CD if you're not really into techno, but want to sort of dip your toe in, although this one's hard to get. I think it's on streaming services. Pretty easy to find most of Deepchord stuff on streaming, but I bought the CD because this is going to disappear soon. This is going to become one of those things that's hard to find. We have got Alice and Blood Money from Tom Waits. These are remastered versions that came out on the same day in 2002, I think. I think most people are sort of drawn to Alice, whereas Blood Money is more of the gruff stuff, I think, from what I remember. But like, Tom Waits is one of the greatest artists of our times, I think. I mean, one of the greatest songwriters of all time. And yeah, I think he's a better songwriter than Bob Dylan. So yeah, you can chew on that one for a while. I'm sure many of you will disagree, but I really do think Tom Waits paints or draws more interesting characters than Dylan does. And he does so, his instrumentation is more interesting. I don't think Dylan has made a good record since 2001, since Love and Theft, which was the last Dylan album that you could actually laugh at. It had jokes on it, it was funny, and it also had, it had the kind of traditional blues swing to it. But everything he's done since, I've been kind of like, about. I know many of you probably won't be, but yeah, that was the last great Dylan album. Whereas Tom Waits, even 2013's Bad As Me was just fantastic. So I can't get enough of Tom Waits, and I'm sad that I've never seen him live and probably never will. Biosphere Substrata's alternative versions. Anybody into ambient music who knows their stuff or know about the original version of this. Substrata is one of the greatest ambient albums of all time, released in '97. But Geir Jensen has just sort of unearthed, maybe for financial reasons, who knows, don't care, an alternative take on this. I would say this is a little bit jazzier than the original, or there are more sort of jazz drum inflections on it. He's definitely removed, or maybe they didn't exist in the first place, maybe these are demos, a lot of the Twin Peaks samples that for me really ice the cake on the original Substrata are not here, although they do show up in the very final track. That Major Briggs sample is in the very final track. But I just thought this was an interesting diversion. Again, I bought this to support the artist. I bought it from Bandcamp, and yeah, it was okay. I didn't want to buy the record because it's just, sometimes Bandcamp is like 20 euros for the record and then 20 euros for shipping, and I'm like, nah, not doing it. So I buy the CD. I've shown the Robyn Hitchcock album already in another video. This is the CD. I always buy the vinyl and the CD of everything Robyn Hitchcock does because I just think he's just fantastic. It's as simple as that. And I'm amazed actually by how colourful and vibrant and psychedelic and full this record is. Because normally when, I guess, solo artists, I know he played with the Egyptians years ago and before that Soft Boys, but when solo artists get in towards the sort of the late stage of their career, they sort of pare back the production and the flourishes, and it's just a very raw sounding album you tend to get. And I'm thinking of artists like Momus and Luke Haynes, you know, that close mic'd sound, which I don't love. And Robyn Hitchcock has not gone that route, and he's recorded, I think, the bass songs at his home in Nashville, and then I think he sent maybe those recordings around to friends in the world, and they've sort of fleshed it out, and it's just a joyous listen, even when it kind of slows down in the middle, which some people I think have called a sort of mid-album slump, and I don't think so at all. It just becomes a little bit more meditative, and I'm just amazed that this guy's nearly 70 and making just super exciting, you know, colourful, yeah, wonderful records like this. So I recommend you check out this album. It's nothing like his live shows where it's just him and an acoustic guitar and Emma Swift. Nothing like that at all. This is a full band style album. There is another Deepchord CD actually here, Functional Designs, which is his latest dub techno release. It's a bit like Hash Bar Loops. Not quite as good, but still pretty interesting. Is that everything? I think that is pretty much everything that I've bought in the last, 2 or 3 months. That's quite the haul. I don't normally spend this kind of money on physical media in such a concentrated amount of time. So I just thought I'd share with you how I put my money where my mouth is with music that I enthuse about or show in screenshots on this channel. Anyway, so yeah, this is a bit of a nothing video, but it's also an everything video really, because this is the fuel that goes into the engine that then drives my enthusiasm for sound quality and hi-fi gear forward. Without this stuff, I really wouldn't be interested in hi-fi gear at all. I'm not into it really from an engineering point of view, although that is interesting when I do get to cover it and do get to sort of unpick what it is I'm talking about to a point. But generally, yeah, without the music, what's the point? Like, it's just a box that, I don't know, makes an electrical signal louder or amplifies it or processes it or converts it from digital to analog. On its own, that's not enough for me. I need to know what it can do for my listening experience to the music that, yeah, I have featured in this video. So yeah, if you like this video, please give it a like down below. If you like my attitude to music being the source of what I do, yeah, I guess it is the source of the river that has become this channel. God, that is super pretentious, but whatever. Anyway, if you dig that and you can ignore my pretentious wankery, then please, yeah, subscribe to this channel. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.